Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Life of the Lost. I'm Sam.
And I'm Megan.
And this week's episode is sponsored by Brown Lab Media. Brown Lab Media is a creative community helping to promote and create original content, personal brands, businesses, or anything media related by people of color. So if you have a chance, feel free to check them out. The link is www.brownlabmedia.com. And moving on to this week's episode, we're going to talk to you a little bit about giving back. And when I say giving back, I mean giving back to your birth family. As adoptees, me and you, I think we each have our own perspectives on that topic. And I think it's time we share them a little bit. So maybe would you like to start off by maybe just how you feel about it and then take it from there?
Yeah, so before we were going to do this topic, I kind of went back into my Hotmail account and I started researching and looking the very first time I actually sent money to my sister. During the time I was like, I think 13 or 14 years old, so I don't think it was me sending money. I think it was my adoptive mom and dad sending money. And we were just going back and forth. Just talking about maybe why they needed money. My mom was sick at one time. My brother had, what is that called? Not mites. Oh my gosh, what is that called? I wrote it down. Oh, parasites. My brother had parasites in his brain. So they were in Lima for a long time and they were in the hospital. So there was a lot of kind of going back and forth, us sending them money. And at the time it was kind of like, okay, this is just kind of how it is. But I always kind of had a weird feeling too, because how much of that is going to it or not, like, I don't know.
Yeah, that is weird. I'd be curious to know what they said and their justification, I guess, for, like, one, how they even got into that conversation. Did they just, like, boom, I need money? Or were they kind of like, were they having a conversation beforehand and then were just kind of brought up, kind of like, well, actually, like, my son isn't doing well right now.
Yeah, so it was just my sister primarily, like, talking to her. And so the very first time it was, Dad won't help out for money for the university that I'm going to, and I'm going to get kicked out. No. And so it was just kind of brought up slightly. And so, of course, it was like, I think it was about $50, but then I was looking and a few months later, it was $60. Wow. And so it was kind of, like, me going back to it, I had a totally different spin on this, on how I felt about it. And then me going back and looking at these emails kind of made me it brought me back into that moment. And in those moments, I just felt really insecure about my stance in their family, my stance in the United States and that family. So my birth family, my adoptive family, what does that mean? Like, it was kind of made me insecure again.
And how old were you? I'm trying to get perspective on timeline.
Yeah, so when I went back, it went all the way back to 2005. So I was about 14 at the time.
Oh, wow. So that was after you had met them.
Yeah, for the first time.
Oh, okay. Huh. Yeah, it was just interesting. I guess it would have been, my perspective on it would have been different if, like, you hadn't met them prior.
Yeah.
Then for them asking money, then to, like, if they just found you on Facebook or something and then just sparked up a conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Or you kind of just, like, met there and then, I guess, exchanged information. But I don't even know if Facebook was really, like, that popular back then. So I don't know, even know if you could have done it.
That's so funny, though, because it went all the way back. I think I had written this down. Our conversations went all the way until 2014 through emails.
Oh, wow.
And then that's when Facebook, they found me on Facebook, and then we started talking that way. So I think that was really interesting, kind of like going back to that and looking at where we were, what we were saying. And I feel like I was really closed off in general, kind of through email. I didn't really say too much. And there was a point where my sister was just kind of saying, please write me back when you can. Make sure to write me back when you have spare time and all this stuff. But I do remember being very kind of reserved about it because when I came back from meeting them for the first time, I felt very just kind of confused, where I was at. A lot of guilt, a lot of all this stuff. But kind of going back to the money aspect, when my brother had... why do I keep forgetting that? Oh, parasites. When my brother had parasites.
An unnamed parasitic infestation.
In his brain.
We'll maybe you'd find the specific terminology.
Yeah, it was all in the emails because I had specifically asked for documentation from the hospital, from all of this stuff. And so we were getting things from Lima and going back and forth. There was pictures kind of going back and forth too. And my brother had I mean, his hands had just swelled up. He had gained
Jeez.
like maybe 90 pounds and just kind of like water weight because he couldn't eat very much. It was horrible.
It's like that horrible like Monsters Inside Me from Animal Planet
for
show.
Sure.
Yeah, dang, that's crazy.
And it was a whole year of just going back and forth trying to figure out what this was. Like, can we operate? Can we not? And yeah, it was kind of a mess. So during that time, you know, my mom and dad were sending them money and it was okay. But then after that, it kind of got a little bit weird, right? Because then I got a job and I was like 16, 17, and I was kind of getting pressured from my adoptive dad in Minnesota about, not necessarily pressure, but he would kind of always lecture me and just say, hey, you know, that's your family, you're working now, you should try to give back to them when you can. And I think just because I was at that age, I was kind of rebelling, and I just didn't really want to because he was telling me to. And I wanted to do it because I felt like I should. And so there was a time where I did start giving them money for birthdays, for Christmas, until it got messy. And it was weird because everything was okay, but we go through Western Union, right? Maybe other people do like MoneyGram or something like that. Western Union, you can go to different places like CVS, you can go to markets, all of this stuff. What you do is you go in, and I always sat down at the photo kiosk, and embedded in the photo kiosk is Western Union. So you just do their DNI, which is kind of like their ID, like their license kind of thing. But it's not driver's license, just called a DNI.
That's so strange. I've never heard of.
Well, it looks just like an ID. So you have to do their name, everything right. We did my mom's name backwards one time on accident, and it was just this whole fiasco, and she couldn't get money, and we didn't know if we could get it back. But so you'd have to literally go into like a CVS or something to go do this transaction. Now it's so much simpler. I can just get online, westernunion.com, and just send them money. It's so much easier now.
The beauty of technology.
Yes. So we're going back and forth, and because there's a fee every single time you send money, it's like, so today I just sent $50 because it's my godson's birthday coming up, and so that fee was $4. So every time there's a fee, so when I wanted to send them money, I would send like a bulk amount, right? So say I wanted to send like 150 for Christmas, maybe that's $9. I didn't want to send it specifically to each family member because obviously I don't want to pay the fee.
Yeah.
All those different times. And so there was a time where somebody picked it up, and I think they withheld money. And so I'm getting messages. I'm just getting mixed messages all around the board. My sister's friend one time contacted me about money. It got weird. And I'm just kind of like, who are you? And they're like, oh, call me and I'll let you know everything. And I'm like, wait, but where's my sister in this? It got weird. And so
what you're saying, so sorry, I'm just so I could get this correct in my mind. Mm-hmm. So somehow they found out that you were sending them money, and
one of their friends,
and they kind of, I guess, all just kind of like hopped on the bandwagon and just kind of like was like, hey, you know, I'm related to X, Y, and Z. You're your sister.
Yeah.
Send me some.
Yeah, like I've been helping with this or something. Like I don't know. Wow. It got weird. But that's kind of separate. I'm kind of like merging them because the whole reason why I really originally stopped with my family was because they were just fighting over money. And when they started fighting over it, I was like, that's it. Because then I feel like they're fighting over me. And it just it felt so uncomfortable, and I don't know if I'm necessarily expressing it right.
You definitely just brought up two very like interesting points, too, which I don't know if other people are struggling with now, but just that the idea of like, you know, the money, like stirring your family up, stirring the pot, and you know, and making them all agitated, and that like worst case scenario of you know, I guess like somehow like other people wanting to reach, like constantly reaching out to you, being like, hey, can you send me some money? I did this X, Y, and Z. And that's just like, I don't know. That's something that I'm like, holy crap, please. That's like a fear of mine, because I guess I don't have my mom and my dad aren't alive right now. So that's not really an option. And all my siblings are grown up. Not to say like, not that that's any reason why I don't do that. But that thought definitely passes through my mind, where it's just like worst case scenario is like, you know.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable, and you don't want to be in that position where they just need you for that. You want to be in a position where
you only love me for my money.
Yeah, Yeah. But and like you're telling yourself this whole time, like, it's not about that, it's not about that. But then when the friend kind of came into the situation, I was like, this is uncomfortable now. Like,
which kind of leads us to our question, like topic of the day, which is the pros and cons of sending money to your birth family.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off a little bit there, but I was just trying to remind myself too in terms of that and my thoughts and my opinions on that, sending money to family.
Yeah. I guess so. Just kind of leading up to right now, I'm a lot more strict when it comes to that. Because this was kind of recently where I stopped, and I kind of started a little bit again here and there. I don't give as much maybe for birthdays. I give more when I feel there's a need. And when I mean I feel there's a need, it's when I'm talking to them on FaceTime and I'm seeing in the house that there's something there that I don't like. There's something there that I wish that they had that they don't right now. You have
that rich Piana, I don't know, that rich Piana mindset where, I don't know, like there's a YouTuber, Rich Piana, super fitness guy, super like him. Rest in peace. And there's this one time I think he was talking about how he handles, like, kind of unrelated, but how he handles homeless people. Mm-hmm. And how he says that he'll give money to the ones who don't ask for it. Mm. And he won't give money to the ones that beg. And I don't know, maybe there's something I got from that in terms of like how you kind of have adopted that mentality too, where it's kind of like, you'll interact with them, and then if you see something that they might need or that they might need help with, and on top of them not maybe asking, it just gives you like the yes, like I'll help you, like I'll work with you,
Yeah, and it's that want.
Yeah,
you want to do it, not because you feel like you're obligated because it's somebody's birthday or it's Christmas or whatever. It's that want. And so the last time I sent a pretty good chunk was when my dad was he has another house somewhere else, and he has two houses, and he built everything by himself. He has all the land. He takes care of it. He travels back and forth from Cusco to there. And I just felt like, that's what it was. He was showing me like an ox, and he was like, I'm gonna put this thing on the ox, and we're gonna like plow this land and whatever. And I'm just kind of like, that's cool. I wish you had a tractor. Not that I sent that much money to get a tractor, but I just sent a good amount because I was like, I hope this can help you.
I wonder how much a tractor would go for in Peru.
I don't know.
Like even a hand-me-down one. Like
the demand of it too is like, if people can afford it, then.
Yeah, it's weird. Like sometimes, like the what's it called? The frequency, not the frequency. The currency of different products are different depending on your region. Like for instance, I don't know, like maybe like food might be really cheap down there, but maybe something like a tractor might be really expensive just for the fact of them maybe shipping it from somewhere that isn't part of their country. I don't know, maybe that's completely wrong, but I don't know.
Well, like the last time I went, the shoes were pretty bad down there. They were just complaining about certain things, like certain products that aren't better. I guess that kind of leads me to Cuba. When we went to Cuba, and the guy we went fishing. So we went fishing with some guy. It was kind of like off one of the like Airbnb experiences. And he was like, yeah, next time you guys come back, bring some like fishing stuff because there's no fishing stuff down here at all. And like he showed us that boat that he made out of styrofoam.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the demand of it, and if they have it in
they're hustling over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy was giving us sorry to go a little off topic. This guy was just giving this whole spiel about like, so there's this like dude who knows English, and there's other like his like homie who doesn't really know English, but he's kind of like, the guy who speaks English doesn't do any of these fishing things, but his buddy does. And so it's funny how he's expressing how like this hard work, strenuous work of him, like, being on this like styrofoam boat, literally like it looked like 5 coolers melted together. And this dude is literally in the open ocean just collecting like these fish, and the current, he's explaining how the current's crazy and you could capsize at any minute, and you have to go out so early, it's dark out. And this dude is explaining it like he almost did it, like that's how much he explained it. But it's just funny because the dude was just like standing right there. He had no kind of idea what we were talking about. He was just like, yeah, like just kind of like, smiling when we smiled. It was just funny. But yes, back to the currency and how fishing gear is a lot more expensive in Cuba than maybe food, right? Food probably isn't that expensive. It isn't though. People need food, I guess.
It all depends on like what their like, what their version of expensive is, right? Because when we go down there, obviously it's not expensive to us, but it might be to them. So I feel like that's kind of.
That's true.
A give and take.
No, but like I feel like I don't know. Like some things would genuinely be expensiver. Like expensive or more expensive. Like I don't know. Like I'd be curious. But the Cuba's different. The Cuba's Cuba's whole like system is just
completely different. Yeah.
Just an oddball. But I'd be curious to know like how much a tractor would go for in Peru.
Yeah. And then it was funny because the next time I talked to my dad, he was showing me like this water tank. And that was the coolest thing ever because I was like, oh, like maybe that's where my money went. Like I could be totally wrong and it could have gone to like booze or something else. Like I have no idea. But like part of me just really wants to believe that, the money I sent, he used. And I told him, please use it. It's not like I require them to give me receipts. It's not like I require them to tell me what it is specifically, unless I do. Because sometimes there was a time where I did. I just said, hey, like, can you please get this? And my sister showed me, yes, I got this kind of thing. But I guess that's kind of leading up to me just being a little bit more strict as far as me wanting to give all the time. But that comes with like a lot of guilt too. Sometimes I feel like I'm not giving enough. Sometimes when I'm here and I'm buying things and I'm just kind of like, wow, Megan, you just spent $200 on a pair of headphones, but you didn't give them $50 in the past 2 months or something. And so that mentality is kind of like runs through my head too. And so I feel like for me, it's like a touch and go subject.
Yeah, I can agree with that too. I was just doing a little like internal thinking in terms of like my specific opinion on giving back to my family in Peru. As you might know, my mom passed away due to ovarian cancer. I feel like cancer is like a huge thing. My sister had cancer, my mother had cancer, but it was ovarian cancer. So I'm not sure if like that, if it's like hereditary, it gets passed down. Like I don't really know about my sister's health. I don't even know about like my health, in that sense of like that cancer gene being passed down. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it all roots back. 'Cause I was thinking like, why do you give back? You give back because your belief in, I think, something bigger than just maybe your family per se, just the belief of understanding your roots, being involved with your roots, keeping that connection alive to where you come from. I think that might be alive in you, and that's important. And I guess for me, when I think about it, I don't know if I truly share that same belief. Because I don't know, this is my perspective, but I feel like I was it was like a purchase. Like I was purchased. The transaction is like no.
You feel like your birth mom purchased or kind of gave you away and got money?
Well, no, I guess sorry. Like beyond the purchase money transaction aspect, it was maybe it was a transaction, but it's like a no refund policy. All right, thank you for your service. But goodbye now. Like everyone's happy, and that's it. I don't know. Maybe depending on my family, turning out differently in terms of like, for instance, I'll be specificer. Like if I had a lot bigger of a family, maybe my mindset would be different. But based on my analysis of my family that I live with now, we're not big. We're not a big family. And there's a lot of culture within my small family that I have. And I choose because of the obligation that somebody didn't have but wanted to take care of me, to take me in, to adopt me as their own. I choose loyalty to them. And I will never forget what my mom did to me, the opportunity my mom gave me. And in fact, I honor her every single day by trying to do the best I can with the life that I was given. And I wouldn't have had that if it wasn't for her. So she's always the source. She's always someone who I can never look away from. But with that being said, that ends there, you know? Like I am living enough through her with the blood that runs through my body, with the mind that I have is enough in my mind to validate me. Well, not to validate me, but just to acknowledge that part is still there. It's still, you know, progressing. So, you know, I have a family that I'm not bound by blood. You know, I am not, I don't feel good enough to hold the last name that I have, if that makes any sense. I feel like there still needs to be work. There's still a lot of work to be done. And I know I'm getting way away. This is getting a little bigger than, you know, do you give back to your family in terms of like money or financial needs? Maybe even like metaphorical, like in terms of giving back emotional, like, you know, transactions, you know, talking with them and being communication. But I definitely feel like I really looked up to my adoptive family and all of the amazing people who did amazing things with their lives. You know, for instance, my grandma, she got nominated for a Tony Award for theater, and that's like a huge accomplishment. And I remember when I was a kid and I saw her, you know, my mom went to that ceremony and I saw it on TV, and it was just like a huge moment for me where I guess I subconsciously like take it in my head where it's kind of like, you know, you still need to earn this last name in my way. And
so do you think if you know, like earn it, I'm not being like mean by doing that. I'm just trying to like
speak freely, please.
So do you think
indulge me.
if you earn it, you know, the last name, then you'd be able to give back to your family, or kind of how does that relate, I guess?
Maybe, possibly. I tend to try and not think too far ahead. I tend to battle one thing at a time, and whether or not I get to even that level of feeling fulfilled, feeling like I earned that. I'm sorry, I'm using very blunt words, very like, you know, intense words, but like it's a lot, I guess, grayer too with that. So take it with a grain of salt. Maybe then I will be able to turn in that other direction, and you know, be more involved, I guess, with my family in Peru. But in my opinion, I don't know. Please let me know if you disagree or if you have anything to add.
Do you feel like you have to kind of like prove yourself, I guess, to them? Is that what it is, or not really?
To my birth family?
Yeah.
Oh, no, not at all. I think, to be honest, I don't know. I think me graduating college is way more than they ever could do. I think that's enough for them. To be honest, like I definitely think
Have you ever talked to them about that?
No. It's different, I guess, too, because like, you know, in my situation, maybe other people out there have the similar situation, but all my other siblings are older.
Yeah. They
have their own families, so it's not like there's somebody my age or even younger. Maybe it would change my perspective too. I don't know. I think that bar for that family is like here, and my bar for my birth family is like, my adoptive family is like here, and me doing these things like, you know, graduating high school, graduating college is like put me like here in that sense. And I'm not trying to like, sorry if I'm using these judging kind of like statistics or stats, but sometimes that's how I process where things sit in my mind, and where there are areas that I need to improve on in my life in general. But I definitely feel like, you know, what I dare say, like, they have pleasing my birth family is a lot more realistic to a certain extent, a lot more easier? The odds of me obtaining these goals that my birth family would have loved for me to
so you feel complete like
is already completed.
Like you've paid your debt.
No, I you know, like I think about my birth mom and I'm just like, hey, what would she be thinking? Is she like, oh, I wish my son would grow up and I wish he would go to college and get a good job? Is that as far as it would go? Because if that's the case, I don't know if why stop there? Like, I don't know. Like I've done that. I've did it, you know, I'm there. So what do I stop? Do I give up? Like, do I kind of just, okay, I'm here. And so now I just live the mundane life of, I guess, maybe a lot of adults, just kind of, they're okay. They like what they do. They're, so, they could, maybe if they had another option, they back in the day with decisions on where they wanted to go to high school or where they wanted to go to college or different degrees that they might have pursued, they had another chance, maybe they would have, but they like where they are. They can live. They've set up a good network around them. But for me, I don't know. I have that fire in me. I have that passion in me, and maybe other people like me, maybe there are other people like me out there who believe the same, who are adopted, who have that same mindset. But for me, I think that right now my focus is on my adopted family and less on my birth family. So bringing it full circle, when you ask me about giving back to my birth family, in my perspective, to keep it very short and sweet, one, I deem it as they have a lot more. I have four other brothers and one other sister. They have families and they have the last name or the bloodline. Sorry, if I don't know if they have the last name. I don't know, potato, whatever. But they carry the same bloodline, and they are all branching out, and doing things with their life. So I think that's okay. On top of the fact that, I don't know, they're adults. I don't want to. I don't know. I guess my relationship with them is different than yours.
Yeah. I think it's important to look at it the way you are. It makes sense to you. I think you don't feel necessarily responsible. Yeah. At the end of the day, you don't necessarily feel responsible.
A lot of that might just too stem with I have siblings that have been adults when I was a teenager. So how much of that is put in my input in terms of my analysis of giving back to my birth family.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. But I believe in them. I believe that they'll get it done. And I don't know, maybe in the future it'll be different. Maybe I will get to where I need to go, and then I will be able to turn my gaze on more of a luxury item, something that I can, I got some change, I got some spare time. Let's take a trip, let me go down there. What do you need?
Well, I think that's the big difference right there is I think what really hit it for me, what kind of hit home is that I went to their house. I saw how they lived. I saw the bedrooms. I saw the bathroom. I saw everything. And that going back home that was me when I went for the first time to visit my family. And then going back home for the first time in Peru, this is weird, and my brother probably remembers this, but when we got home from Peru, we genuinely went home, and one of the first things we did was kiss the toilet seat. You know why? Because we just missed the damn toilet seat. We missed America so much, and that going to my house in Peru, they didn't have a toilet seat.
That's wild.
They didn't. So it was a big comparison, different, and I feel for you met them in a restaurant. You didn't go home with them, did you? No.
No, but I guess what's interesting to you that that scenario that you said, the only thing I think of was you going home to your birth family's house was the same feeling I got when I was stuck in North Carolina for 4 months. Mm-hmm. And I just remember me and my buddies, my cellmates, just dreaming about dang, when I get home, oh man, I'm going to love my bed. Mind you, we're sleeping on the freaking cold ground of the forest in the Appalachian Mountains. And
side note, you weren't in jail.
Yeah, but it felt like it for a minute. That's even worse. We didn't even have a bed. We had to hike all day. It was horrible. Well, no, looking back at it, I'm just putting forget what I'm saying. Anyways, but yeah, no,
So you know that feeling.
I know that feeling. That. Yeah.
I think it was also because we almost died twice on our way there.
Well,
remember?
Maybe even more. I almost died.
Yeah.
When well,
you were on the same flight.
I don't know why it didn't affect me that much.
I don't know. It really did. I guess side note, when we went to Peru, I don't know if we've told this story already, but we went up the first time, I believe one of the engines went out, and everybody was calling their family members, telling them that they were going to die, that they love them. And so it was really intense. That's
so funny. Me and my mom were so oblivious then, because I don't know. We had no idea. My only recollection of that day was trying to figure out what I was going to eat, because we were staying at the airport too late and all the restaurants were closed. Yeah. And I'm like, Mom, I'm kind of getting hungry. And I wasn't even really hungry. I was just bored.
Yeah.
So, I was a chubby kid back then, so I like to eat.
We didn't have any idea when the next plane was going to go out, and then it wasn't until the next morning.
We slept over that in the airport.
You guys did. We went to a hotel because you got the vouchers. You could go if you wanted to. They gave us all vouchers. You guys must have just stayed.
We're oblivious. I don't know.
You had no idea there was even vouchers involved.
I was just chill. I mean, I guess I was a good kid. I just had a DVD player and I was just chilling, just watching movies like all day. Back then, things like, your phone and having movies. Yeah, it was simpler times. So like DVD player was like life. Mm-hmm. It was like, wow, I'm watching a movie and I'm not by a TV or a movie theater. That's freaking crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
But then we went up again, to go to Peru from, I think we were in Miami, and the electricity was kind of going out. And the problem was, because we had just got up in the air, there was too much fuel in the plane, and they couldn't land right away. So they were doing circles a little bit. And then when we went to go land, there was just firefighters and police and everything, and they had blocked off the highways, and they thought we were going to crash or that it would explode. Crazy. And the wheels ended up popping. There was like a little mini fire from the brakes.
Where was I? I swear it was like...
I don't know. Maybe I'm making this up.
Nah.
But I know
I just think it's a different mindset of different families. Your family is very different than my family in the regards of...
Panicking?
Yes, yeah. And... ignorance is bliss. I'll say that.
But that's why, me and Michael were terrified after that to kind of fly, and my brother still is terrified. Well, from what I remember, to fly. I mean, that was pretty scary. It's pretty intense. Yeah. You're kind of like, eh.
No, I mean, I do remember one jump down, over when the airplane goes, just flies down a little,
turbulence,
and your stomach goes up in your chest for a second. But that was about it. And they said, I swear it was a joke. I think I remember a little bit now. It's coming back to me as I think about it. But I remember somebody said we just lost the engine, but it's gonna be okay. We lost one of the engines, but it's gonna be okay. We're gonna turn you safe and sound. Oh, okay. And I guess I was fine. But you had a very different view of the situation.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, though, bringing us back, right before we got into that, I had a thought about why we have differences of a little bit of opinion. I forgot.
We were talking about how I went and saw the house.
It was right before that.
Right before that.
Let's put our thinking caps on. Right before that, because I was making a connection. Dang, maybe it'll come back to me, but yeah,
just how maybe you don't feel responsible.
Oh yes. We were talking about you going back to your birth family's house, and I was thinking maybe that's another reason why I don't invest my time into my birth family, because I know that if I do, it will spread me out. I'll become too thin. And that sharp edge will become dull because feel like I'm pushed in multiple directions. So, bringing it back to a previous topic about sacrifice, that's definitely a sacrifice that I'm willing to make, and I'm openly willing to live with the consequences of that decision I'm making by not acknowledging or helping or keeping in connection with my birth family. And one of those huge hinders of it too is language. I can't really talk to them. If I can't talk to you, how am I supposed to have a relationship with you? I can't do Google Translate. I can't do like that. It doesn't work for me. And when we're talking about adults, that doesn't work for me. I need to know you. I need to I don't know, feel hear your voice, understand you. So much body language goes into communication that is lost when it comes to language and communication in general. Mm-hmm. And so I guess, that's another reason why I don't, because I need to be A1 on whatever I'm trying to do. And with that being said, I'm not, there's so many things in my life here that pull me in general. So it's like hard even with that. And you want to add something else into it. I'm just like, man, I can't, just one thing at a time, please. Yeah. Which is ultimately why I said what I said. But when I get the chance, I will come back and I will be more open to that. But right now, I gotta worry about my own.
Which is interesting, right? We've had these conversations a lot before, and they've gotten pretty intense because I'm kind of on the other spectrum of that, just thinking, what happens if so-and-so dies? Like, you're all right with that? You're all right with just not really talking to them, not really having a relationship? And I think it kind of is up and down a little bit for you, but for the most part, you're like, well, I don't really know them, kind of thing.
Because to me, I view it as a transaction in a way, where it's kind of like, there's so much emotion into that, into my birth mom giving me to my mom, like why all these like hidden clauses in the contract, But
like, what hidden clauses?
Like what if this person dies? Are you gonna talk to your brothers? Are you gonna keep up with them? Are you gonna visit them? Are you gonna?
Well, I'll take it back to some facts, and I think going back to when your adopted mom went back to Peru to get you, and your birth mom just saying, I hope you guys come back and visit. I hope, he meets da-da-da and is good with the family and everything. And you did, but by the time you came back, your birth mom had died. And so just knowing that she still wanted to have a connection, you have a connection with your siblings, to know that one of your siblings was like absolutely heartbroken when you left, like that person, that your brother gained that connection with you. Just thinking about how I don't think, and I know like this is me just assuming something about somebody who's already dead, but this is like my gut, like maybe as a woman, I don't know, just tells me that that's not necessarily what she would want, is you to just kind of like distance yourself. I think she would understand because you're a pretty emotional person. So like you said, you would get spread thin and their drama might become your drama, and you don't want that. You don't need that. And so I think that's kind of a thing she might understand, but
we think about this aspect. What if my birth mom, is an even more concentrated form of me and my mentality? Because think about this. When my birth mom went to meet my mom, she was very reserved. Very, very, I think I have only a few pictures of her, but when I look at her, she's so much in her mind that she is thinking about, that's so deep. But she will probably never tell you. I don't even know if she told anybody, you know what I mean? Like, or she even had a connection with somebody that she was able to. I hope she did at one point in her life. But to think that she is even more of a concentrated form of me. And then you want to look at me, if you know me, and just look at how I run and live my life, and how passionate I am, how like about everything, about like love, about like hate, about like sadness, all the spectrums of the emotional spectrum. What were we saying? I had something good
We're
here.
just talking about how what your mom
mentality,
might have
right?
wanted. Yeah.
So like what if between you and me, you guys, right? Between me and you guys, I do still, like, I'm a very spiritual guy. I do try and hope that I am connected somehow to like my grandma and my grandpa and my birth mom. And I would wonder if, at certain times that I am in a intense moment of my life where I do reach out to them spiritually, and I do wonder if they are aware of my current situation, and if they are, I kind of like let them in. I let them in my mind spiritually, and I just wonder if my mom knows or would have been okay with the decision that I had made, being like, I see now, Sam, like I see now. Like, I know why you're doing what you're doing, and I'm okay with that, because, I don't know, it's kind of like you want what's best for your children,
And if that's what they feel is best, then maybe you do too.
Maybe that is. and you know, the teacher
understandable.
becomes the student and vice versa.
Yeah.
So maybe that's, you know, and I am fully aware of the sacrifice. I'm fully aware that people might die and that I might never have a chance to have that final conversation with them. But that, you know, that thought too, just kind of, I feel like with me opens the door for everything. Like, what if you never have the chance to X, Y, and Z? What if you never have the chance to this? What if you never have a chance to go there?
Yeah.
And I can't think about that.
And I think
now.
for some people, it kind of like can get them in that black hole. But for me, like more recently, it's I like to think of the what ifs, like a kind of worst case scenario, because that's what kind of pushes me forward. And yeah, it does get sad sometimes, but that's just more of a reason for me to push forward and whatever it is that I'm thinking of or worrying about doing or not doing. So I guess it works both ways.
But I'm like that too.
Yeah.
I care about it. But what the difference is I consolidate my
energy,
my what ifs to one thing.
Yeah.
What if I don't succeed in this one thing I want to do? No, I have to succeed in this one thing I want to do.
Yeah.
And everything else kind of trails behind it.
Right.
Because it has, I don't know. Maybe you're better. Maybe you can be better at managing everything, and everything's at like maybe at 50 or 60, 75. But like I can't operate like that.
Yeah.
I need to hone in on like one thing,
Right.
or else life will completely like crash me like a tsunami wave, and I will go tumbling everywhere, and nothing will get done. I'll be, you know what I mean? It's just that
well,
cycle.
it's hard because it's like somebody else's problems become your problems, and I think that's kind of why recently.
But you have to ask yourself too, the sacrifices that you make on the opposite side. I'm understanding of the opposites of that, but you have to understand too, if you don't get to where you want to be, how much of that could have been fixed if you might have consolidated your energy, your mental state of mind, your resources, and you honed in and sharpened it on one thing too.
No,
Like,
I totally
nothing's perfect
agree.
either, you know?
Yeah, and I guess that just kind of goes back to, you know, friends too, and where you want to put that energy. And I feel like as you get older, you kind of realize, you know, this year and even last year, just kind of like letting friends go and just kind of being like,
especially this year.
yeah,
You know, where you can't talk to people, and then you see who your real friends are. Then you see who's willing to keep up the conversation. Because, you know, I feel like all of us, especially during post-COVID, is just really in the midst of life and kind of like a little isolating themselves, I'd like to think. I'd like to think no one's out there like partying up, like nothing is happening. But yeah, you know, it definitely makes you realize who's kind of there, who's kind of like, hey buddy, what's going on, man? I haven't heard from you in a bit. But
well, and I guess that just goes back to your energy and your time, you know, because I think more recently too, just being able to express why you're not talking to that person, like whether it's like a text or a letter or in person, just being like, this is kind of why, and that's kind of how I feel like it's been good to do things that way, and it's been good to like kind of set intentions in that way. And I think kind of going with family too, I think that's kind of why, like, I used to be very, very involved with them. When something happens, when they're sick and things, I am too. I get very involved as well. But, and I hate to say this because recently my sister and her son, my godson, had COVID. Or maybe it was her daughter, sorry. But they had COVID, and so I was talking to her a little bit more frequently, just asking her symptoms, asking her if she's okay. I have a friend who lives in Peru, and he was kind of helping me with the medicines, what to take, what not to take, and just being very helpful in that way. But then once it kind of like died down, like, and she got a lot better and she was okay, I kind of just, you know, pumped the brakes on a little bit because you're right. There's other things that I have to deal with too. It doesn't mean that I don't love them. It doesn't mean that I don't want to hear from them or talk to them. Because even the last time I talked to my dad, my birth dad, he was like, he kind of got upset a little bit. He was like, well, I haven't heard from you. I was worrying. Where are you? I want to talk to you more. Like, call me more. And so I understand that part too. You know, just kind of trying to be present. But I guess that just
mutual
goes,
feeling too, right? Like, as much as he's worried about you, it's also his responsibility, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but for him to understand that, you know, you have a lot of life stuff too, and that maybe if you did have time, you definitely would reach out to him. Because you didn't, it's like, you know, I don't know. Like,
I don't know. I agree with that, but then I disagree too, because at the same time, like, you just have to make time. And that's where I think I'm kind of heading with this too, like how I was talking about friends is you're going to have to make time. Like, you don't always have time to do certain things, but if you find somebody like important enough, you do it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess for
you're
me,
making
though,
a decision
too,
on what time is valuable to you and what isn't.
Yeah.
My beliefs on what's valuable to me, you might disagree with, but
Yeah.
I guess the
Well,
only
when it comes
thing
to this, I feel like we disagree a little bit when it comes to this, just
because
because
you value your time with your birth family and keeping up with that aspect, and I value
Yeah.
my time maybe a little less than that, like, you know.
Yeah.
Because in your mentality, I think your worst case, you know, you think about the worst case scenarios, but what if you never able to talk to them again, because of, you know, maybe they die or something. And my feeling is, you know, that's a responsibility I'm willing to take to achieve to a certain extent my goal. And, you know, I just pray to my speaking of, pray to my mom, being like, hey, let's try and just puts the fire on me too. Like, let's get this done. Let's get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
So then you'll be able to, you know, be able to pay more attention to that aspect of your life.
Yeah.
And so, yes.
But I feel like it also kind of goes back to just spending an amount of time with them too. Because I went down there and I lived with them for 2 months, I feel like I gained a giant connection that you've never had with your birth family. Like you always tell me, and you always kind of go back to the root and say, like, your mom and dad are alive. All of your siblings, they live together. They're all in one place. And my family, they're not. They're scattered.
Yeah, but but that's still kind of my mentality, where it's kind of like, like, I have faith, man. You're gonna be okay, and if you're not, like, I can't think about that, man.
Yeah.
I have so much I have to think about. Like, crap, I might die tomorrow. Like, and then what? Then I'm gonna, then I don't know. You tell me. I don't know if anybody out there that's had a near death experience, like, knows what's the afterlife. Are you even alive? Do you even have a voice? Can you even feel remorse about all the things you should have wished you could have done? But then, like, you know, it's like, I don't know. And I'm like a guy who likes statistics in a sense, and I'm like, that's a very high probability that there is nothing else out there. There is nothing. There's no life after death, and I know that contradicts my whole spirituality thing, and, you know, I'm a walking contradiction to a certain extent. But there's certain things that I cannot, and to a certain extent will not, worry about, because I can only worry about so much, you know? So I just pray and hope that, you know, my family, I'm sure, you know, I like speaking to you though, I'm sure that there are things that I could learn from my family. I'm sure there are experiences that I've never experienced that I'll be like, hey, whoa, sister, you're exactly like me. That's freaking cool. But like I said, I'm willing to take that sacrifice and not go on with those experiences, because I am looking for experience. I'm gonna be real. I'm looking for different experiences that aren't that, because I don't know what those experiences
That, like,
are.
sentimental value doesn't necessarily mean too much to you as far as that.
Yes, because it all leads back to, you know, that transaction kind of, where it's kind of like, my mom gave me in good love. Please take care of my baby. Please help him grow into the man that he will be one day, or the man that I hope him to be one day. And my mom's like, yes, I will do that 100%. Zoom, like 28 years later, and I've done it. I don't know what my birth mom's expectations of me were, but I feel like I've accomplished a lot of them, like a lot of them. So I don't know what else, I don't know what else to a certain extent right now that I have to give back, per se. Yes, I know they're nitpicking. There's always nitpicking in every kind of thing. You can always, like, you know, get better, whatever, or learn more. But for that, like I said, like, there are other things like, at the end of the day, you have to think about what's, like you said, right? What's important in your life, right? Mm-hmm. Picking what's valuable in your life. Mm-hmm. And I guess if you bring it at, my values are taking care of myself before I take care of my family. Because if I don't take care of myself, how am I going to take care of my family?
Well, that's really interesting too, because while I was thinking about this earlier, I was just thinking about how when I grew up, you know, I grew up obviously with Caucasian family and parents. They never made it seem like when I got a job, I had to give them money. You know, when I got a job, I had to start paying rent, or I had to start doing this or whatever. It was never the case. But I do know, and this is just based on me talking to friends and just me, you know, knowing people, and I could be wrong, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of, like, Hispanic families, that's kind of their expectations. Like, you get a job, you have to come and give me some of that paycheck. For whatever reason, I can't necessarily get into that, because that's not how I was raised. And so maybe more people out there know why, but they're giving back, right? But just based on the things that I've seen, it kind of is this vicious cycle, right? It's kind of like here's your parents, they're working, and then as soon as you get a job, you have to give back to them. but you're always constantly giving back to them so much. You're not really ever.
What kind of mentality? Wait, what? Because I know you talked on to two different aspects of like Caucasian versus Hispanic families.
Yeah.
Are you still on the Hispanic families?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're giving money back to them every single time you get a paycheck. Like, when are you saving? What are you doing for yourself? How are you moving forward?
Yeah. Personally, like I definitely like, I'm very interested in that. Cause like you, like, I don't know, I grew up where it's kind of like, yeah, you know, you go to high school, you know, they help you, you know, you have a great life, right? And then you go to high school, then you go to college, and then after college you get your job, and then maybe like a year or two after that, maybe even shorter, then it's kind of like, yo, get out. Like, get out, come on, it's time, you know, adios, you know. I don't know where you're you know, gonna go, but not here. And
based on your experience from people,
based on how I was raised, based on like my friends, and based on that that life mentality. And but along that time, I didn't really have too many Hispanic friends in middle school or elementary school. And when I say Hispanic, I guess I mean from like the South American, Mexican region of the world. I did have Dominican friends, but I it's weird. I don't know. I didn't so much. I mean, I was friends with them, but I didn't really know like their family. They were always kind of like a weird, so it's kind of a weird like gray area that I was very like in the dark with. I didn't really go to their house or nothing, but that was kind of like the mentality. So that's kind of like, I don't know, like like when I got into high school and college, I was like, like, so that's interesting. Like, you know, like I seeing like, you know, very like older people still like living with their mom, but not because like not because they have no choice, but because they want to. Because it's like, oh, I'm just like chilling here, like chilling with my mom, you know. Yeah. And this is interesting. It's just different. But like you said, I don't know, like that begs the question too, like how, as amazing as that is, how potentially damaging could that be, right? Because you're not necessarily like leaving your nest. You're not going off and potentially exploring, and not even a different part of the city, but even a different city.
I feel like they feel like in debt to them, you know. It comes to a situation where like they just feel maybe like in debt, and they feel like they have to give back to their family. But from my experience too, also I feel like they're the moms are kind of like, just stay. Where are you going? Stay with me. Like stay. Like. But I thought you said they meant get out.
No, that was the Caucasian. That was the white.
Oh,
the white.
I was all backwards.
I grew up was, you know, you go to college, and then after that you get your job, and it's kind of like, you know, get out of here. But when, like I said, when I was in college and kind of like towards the later years of my high school days, I experienced different Hispanic households in different settings. And with that, you know, I definitely, it was just different. Like I said, there was like older, you know, still kids that, you know, are older and they're still living there. And now it's not really shunned upon. It's not frowned upon like it is where I come from. And, but they have their reasons, but my, you know, thing is kind of like, well, maybe they have a stronger sense of family, but maybe they don't. Maybe they're kind of coddled too much to a certain extent by not needing to have the pressure to move out, so they never really do. I don't know. Maybe you tell me if I'm wrong about that. I definitely love to hear somebody's perspective who maybe grew up that way in terms of how they view that way of living, and if they liked it or if they didn't, because I'd be genuinely interested to know about that.
Yeah. And the kind of pressures of that or not pressures of that, I guess, because for me, I never had pressure to give back to like my adoptive family. I did have a little bit of pressure to give back to my birth family, from both sides, from my birth family and also from like my adoptive family. But it's not like it was an intense amount. It was like, if you can, you can. If you can't, you can't. There have been times where I've completely declined because for whatever reason, I didn't believe that. Yeah,
I feel like it's that unspoken pressure too when you're talking about Hispanic households. Like I'm just putting my mind in there. It's like, yo, like it's like low key, like, all right, like you're like 23, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like you have a job, but like no one says nothing, kind of. But like it's kind of like, yo, like you're gonna like help. You live here. You're gonna like.
Or what, I don't know. I guess my experience is that they've used it again. I feel bad like saying like they, but like Hispanic households, they have used that against their kids. Like, I did all of this for you. The least you could do is A, B, and C based on my friends and kind of what I've heard.
That's interesting.
But I mean, yeah, like once again, we're kind of touching on a subject that we don't necessarily know that much about, but kind of going back and relating it to like the pressures of that we may or may not feel.
For giving back to your family.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's definitely interesting perspectives.
I guess when you think about it too, like our adoptive family, maybe they didn't ask for money because they were a lot more established.
Maybe.
I guess there's so many different avenues and like routes you can look on this, whether you feel guilty, whether you don't feel guilty about it. I think there's not a right answer or a wrong answer.
Yeah, I guess there's just mentality, right? Like at the end of the day, like I feel like, one and done, after the debt is, the transaction has been made, money and responsibility gets, goes from one side to another. Yeah, one person's giving money potentially and to a baby, but then that person's getting relieved of the responsibility of having that baby but getting money too. So
yeah. So
it's kind of like, and then that's how I view it. Like that's end all, like kind of, all right, cool. Like see you later. If we meet like in the future, like I'll say hi, like kind of like, but beyond that, like I don't have a standard definitely, but because of how the circumstances that, you had in your life and, you having the ability to, meet your mom and dad and being able to have being able to see your family's house whole definitely changed your whole perspective on your birth family in general for the whole. And, and it's the foundation of your thought process today in terms of potentially how you view them and the connection that you want to continue to have with them and that you have with them. Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's an ongoing topic,
Interesting, right? Two Peruvians who were adopted from Peru at the same year, different part of the countries, and had different views on giving back to their birth family. Yeah, I mean, like I said, anybody have any thoughts or anything they'd like to share or add, you can always reach out to us. The description too on YouTube be dope. Definitely get back to you. And with that being said, do you have maybe anything else you'd like to say about that? I guess
one more thing I'd like to say is that one thing we don't know and what we already had been talking about is like the culture. And I think that's what we're missing out on and you too, the both of us are missing out on the culture and what that means because we've never experienced like life there. We don't necessarily know, just like what we were talking about as far as like money too. We don't necessarily know what is expensive, what's not expensive, what they need more of and what they don't.
And I'll leave you with this thought right here. What if that can A, be a good thing, or B, be a bad thing? Because what if that culture, as amazing as it is more flawed than the culture that we have today, that we were raised in today? Maybe not, completely wrong. But what if you be the judge?
I'm done.
With that said, we might continue this on a later podcast.
And we'll let you know how it goes, like giving back and what we're doing.
We'll update you on that. Maybe I'll have a revelation and I'll decide to move back to Peru forever.
That's not going to happen. I already can tell.
Find out on the next time of Life of the Lost. Once again, I'm Sam.
I'm Megan.
And this is Life of the Lost. Peace.